Welcome to another episode of Mastering Cybersecurity, developed by baremetalcyber.com. Let's dive in. The timestamp is the part of a log entry that answers the when of any security story in precise detail. It records the exact date and time when the action happened, often down to seconds or even fractions of a second. For our college bookstore example, a log entry might show a timestamp like a calendar date and a 24-hour clock time placed together. Systems often record time in Coordinated Universal Time, UTC, which avoids confusion across different regions and clocks. Analysts then convert UTC into local time when they explain incidents to teams or managers. Consistent timestamps let an analyst line up hundreds of entries from different systems into a single, clear timeline. Without reliable time information, even the best logs become jumbled, making it hard to prove what happened first or which action triggered another response. Strong timelines give security stories their backbone. The source field in a log entry answers the who and from where questions that matter so much in security work. In many systems, the source might include a username, a device name, or an Internet Protocol IP address, which is the numeric label used to identify a device on a network. In the bookstore website, the source might show the student's username and the IP address of their laptop or phone. On a file server, the source could identify a specific workstation or service account accessing shared documents. The source sometimes also contains an application name, so analysts can see whether activity came from the web front-end, the payment processor, or an administrative tool. Each of these details helps narrow down which person or system likely triggered the recorded action. When combined with timestamps, source data lets analysts trace how actions moved across devices and accounts during an incident. The result field explains how the action ended, which is vital for distinguishing normal behavior from possible attacks. Common result values include success, failure, denied, error, timeout, or similar phrases that describe outcomes in a straightforward way. In the bookstore login example, a correct password would produce a result like authentication successful, while a wrong password might generate authentication failed. On a file server, a result might show that a document read request was permitted, whereas a deletion attempt was denied by a policy rule. When analysts notice repeated failures in a short time, such as many failed logins from the same IP address, they start to suspect password guessing attempts. When they see unexpected successes, like a rarely used account suddenly gaining high-level access, they consider the possibility of compromised credentials. Results turn bare actions into meaningful security signals that analysts can evaluate thoughtfully. While a single log entry records one action, an event groups several related entries that together describe one meaningful activity. An event might represent a complete user login, starting from the initial request, passing through checks against an authentication database, and ending with a session being created. The web server, application server, and database may all write separate log entries that belong to this single event. In the college bookstore, an event could also represent a full purchase, including adding items to a cart, entering payment details, and receiving a confirmation. Analysts and tools group these related entries by time, source, and shared identifiers like session ID values. When combined, the grouped entries create a mini-story that explains how a single transaction unfolded. Seeing events as collections of related log lines helps beginners move beyond reading isolated entries toward understanding broader actions. Alerts sit on top of events and act like high-visibility flags, warning that a specific pattern deserves closer human attention. Many organizations feed important logs into a Security Information and Event Management (SIEM) platform, which applies rules to group events and raise alerts when conditions match. For example, the SIEM might watch for 5 failed login events followed by 1 successful login from the same IP address in a short period. It might also alert when a user account accesses sensitive payment records outside normal business hours or from an unfamiliar country. The alert does not just say something happened. It summarizes the key pattern, links to underlying events, and assigns a priority level. Analysts follow these alerts as starting points, then drill into the related logs for context. Alerts therefore act like chapter titles that guide readers to the most urgent stories. Reading logs as a timeline means lining up entries by time so the story flows clearly from start to finish. Analysts often begin with a known point, such as the moment a monitoring dashboard showed an alert or a user reported trouble. They then look backward in time through log entries to see what led up to that moment, checking earlier logins, configuration changes, or error messages. After understanding the lead-up, they move forward from the key moment, tracing how systems responded, what other actions followed, and whether anything else went wrong. In the college bookstore example, they might track how a suspicious login led to multiple failed payment attempts or unusual browsing through the administrative pages. This timeline view helps separate causes from side effects, which is crucial when deciding which changes are necessary. A well-built timeline turns scattered entries into a coherent and convincing explanation. To understand from where more deeply, analysts lean heavily on details like usernames, IP addresses, device identifiers, and sometimes even physical location tags. A username helps tie actions to a particular account, which may or may not map directly to an individual person depending on how the organization manages access. An IP address points to a network location, which might be a student dormitory, a public library, a cloud server, or a foreign network. Device identifiers, such as laptop names or mobile device IDs, add another layer, showing which hardware produced the traffic. In some environments, systems can even attach approximate geographic information derived from network data, helping analysts spot logins from unexpected countries. When analysts combine these clues across many log entries, they build a much clearer picture of who is probably behind suspicious actions. This picture guides both technical responses and follow-up conversations. Patterns within logs, such as repeated failed logins or unusual file access, help analysts recognize early signs of trouble. For example, many failed login attempts from one IP address targeting different usernames may suggest a password spraying attempt. A sudden burst of large file downloads from a sensitive folder on a file server might hint at data exfiltration. Changes in normal timing, like database queries for student records running late at night from an administrator account that usually works daytime hours, can also raise concern. Even subtle shifts, such as new error messages appearing across many devices after a software update, may signal configuration problems that affect security indirectly. Analysts learn to compare current patterns against the usual behavior for that system, user, or application. Seeing these patterns early allows teams to respond before small issues grow into full incidents with broader consequences. Analysts learn to compare current patterns against the usual behavior for that system, user, or application. Seeing these patterns early allows teams to respond before small issues grow into full incidents with broader consequences. Because modern systems generate huge volumes of logs, analysts must separate harmless noise from meaningful signals to stay effective. Many log entries simply confirm that expected actions occurred normally, such as routine sign-ins, standard web page requests, or scheduled backups running successfully. If analysts tried to deeply inspect every single entry, they would quickly become overwhelmed and miss important details. Instead, they use filters, severity levels, and alert rules to highlight entries and events that likely carry more risk. For example, they may focus on entries marked as errors, warnings, or security-relevant activities, while leaving pure informational messages in the background. Over time, they adjust these filters based on real incidents, so alerts better match what truly matters. This constant tuning turns a chaotic river of data into a manageable stream of information that supports thoughtful decision-making. Consider a simple story where logs, events, and alerts reveal a small security incident at a community health clinic. A receptionist receives a convincingly written phishing email urging them to sign in to a fake portal to verify payroll information. They click the link and enter their credentials on the attacker's website, unknowingly handing over their password. A short time later, the attacker uses those credentials to sign in to the clinic's real email system from a distant country. The email server logs show a successful login event from an unusual IP address, followed by actions creating mail forwarding rules and deleting some messages. A SIEM platform notices that this account has never logged in from that region before and generates an alert for suspicious sign-in behavior. Analysts review the timeline of logs, confirm the compromise, reset credentials, and remove the malicious forwarding rules. These skills for reading logs, grouping events, and interpreting alerts connect directly to everyday security work in organizations of every size. A beginner who can calmly read a login entry, identify its timestamp, source, action, and result, and place it within a short timeline already adds real value to a security discussion. In a small business, that person might help explain how an attacker reached a payment page, or when a misconfiguration exposed internal data. In a larger organization, they might support a security operations center by preparing clear summaries of key log evidence for more complex investigations. Over time, practice with real systems, such as test environments for college bookstores, small clinics, or local fundraisers, sharpens this storytelling ability. Logs stop feeling like random noise and start functioning as trustworthy witnesses. This has been Mastering Cybersecurity, developed by BareMetalCyber.com. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit BareMetalCyber.com.